This is what happens when you don't grease your linkage and you don't grease the bolts. The bolt is froze in there, and now I have to figure out how I'm going to get it out. We finally got our linkage off our bike. As you saw before, we couldn't get this bolt out of the frame that went through here because of all the corrosion, all the rust. It's never been greased. Even though the bearings worked fine, these pins also need to be greased. So I tried a torch, a sledgehammer, a punch, everything. I'm going to have to clean this up a little bit. But finally, the trusty air hammer was able to drive it out. So now it's just a matter of cleaning everything, polishing everything, greasing the bearings, and I'm going to take the pins out, run brushes through there, and then put it all back together. Got everything cleaned up. The bearings were good. Everything was good. Everything's cleaned and done. You could see this one, even though I had it on the wire wheel and the buffer, you could still see the rust pits in it that you can't get out, but it's nice and smooth now. And I actually take this tool, the little hone, and I go inside these things and hone them where they were all rusty. So you can see you want them nice and free, so they slide through nice and free where they wouldn't even go through there at all before. So they're all nice and cleaned up. Everything's nice and free. Now we're just going to grease, and you got to grease these really good and then put it all back together. Okay, here's a good tip for you guys. When you buy a new bike, you can ride it once or twice, a couple hours, but make sure you take it apart and grease linkage, swing arm, steering head, all the bolts, the pins, and put it with good waterproof grease, and you should be done every 6 months if you ride the bike every week. And I grease all the bolts. When I take them out and put them in, plastic bolts, all the bolts. That's a good tip to keep your bike working good for a long time. We offer a new bike prep where we take it apart and we grease everything, service everything for you, make sure the bike's really good. And if the bike's older, we do offer what we call a race prep, where we do the same thing.